Hey, what's up, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here on video format. A lot of questions today. Let's just jump into it. We're going to start with the first question from Pee Wee, who says this: which accolade is more meaningful to the player, Pro Bowl or All Pro? Now, this is something where it's kind of a opportunity for a learning moment, because there's an assumption that one is more meaningful, and for a good reason, but I think it depends on the context that you're talking about. When it comes to All Pro and Pro Bowl, what is more prestigious is a All Pro mention, right? Because that means out of everybody, you were one of the top three in your position, right? I think they moved up to third team All Pro. And that's an important distinction. When it comes to the Pro Bowl, that means out of everybody in your conference, you are one of the best 3 to 4 people who were willing to go and be in the Pro Bowl. It's a difference there, right? So when it comes to a Hall of Fame argument, when it comes to an argument for somebody's greatness, All Pro nominees, especially in the modern era, are always going to outrank Pro Bowl nominations. Now, that being said, to the player was what this was for, right? To fans, All Pro is more prestigious, and All Pro means more. And to an extent, to players, All Pro can mean and be a more prestigious award. But a lot more contracts in the NFL have accelerators and bonuses for the Pro Bowl, not All Pro. Now, the elite players will have All Pro bonuses in there, and some players have All Pro in there just as like a player like Kareem Grant might have. Hey, if you make third team All Pro wide receiver, you're going to get a $3 million bonus just to bump up that contract number that you hear reported. But it's not a realistic accelerator. Wow, he could be a Pro Bowler, right? So the Pro Bowl to a lot of players means a little bit more, just because it's what can tangentially affect their income, right? Because if you make the Pro Bowl, not only do you get more money for just flat making the Pro Bowl, a lot of contracts, rookie deals included, have accelerators for Pro Bowls. Like if you make a Pro Bowl, they're in there. All Pro, not necessarily the same. Also, the Pro Bowl is voted on by fans. All Pro is voted on by the media. The Associated Press, I believe, is in charge of that. But that is kind of the difference between Pro Bowl and All Pro. It's a little bit more than one's more meaningful, but another one is more meaningful when it comes to monetary reasons for the players. So, I just thought I'd get the whole picture out, because, it's an important distinction to make. All right, next question comes from Evan, who says this: how likely is it that Hunt gets a new deal and Greedy does too? Sorry, it was off center here. This is an interesting conversation, right? Because I don't think either get a new deal. Why do I not think that either Kareem Hunt or Greedy Williams will get a new deal? One, for Kareem Hunt, if you look at how the roster is structured, they just have so many running backs that it doesn't make sense to extend Kareem Hunt, right? Unless Kareem Hunt has what could be deemed a career year this year, then I really just don't see that happening for him. Now, when it comes to Greedy Williams, in one way you could say it's more far-fetched. In another way you could say it's less far-fetched. There are two ways of looking at that situation. One, Greedy, you could say it's easier for him to come back because he's not going to command the amount of money or snaps that a Kareem Hunt can, right? You can bring back Greedy on a mid-level deal for a couple of years, and he can play a mid-level role, and he would be reasonably okay with that. And that assumption is fair to make in the case of Greedy. If you bring back Kareem Hunt, he has to be at least the second running back. I don't think he comes back to be the third running back. So there is that to deal with. But I just think that they have gotten a lot of pieces, right? You draft MJ Emerson, you draft Greg Newsome, right? And no mistake, the last two Browns drafts, they have drafted in their first pick of those respective drafts a DB. Tells me that Greedy's on his way out. They feel comfortable with AJ Green doing a lot of what Greedy Williams used to do, given that he's a better all-around corner than Greedy. Greedy much better in man than AJ Green, but Greedy much worse in zone than AJ Green III. So that is probably why we won't see Greedy Williams or Kareem Hunt on the team next year, I don't think. But we'll see how this shakes out. Kareem Hunt, I think, is more likely to come back because it is likely for him to have a great year and get brought back for another year or two. And he's a running back. The market's not going to be too insane on him. So I would think that up to 2, Hunt's going to be more likely. But Greedy, I don't see a pathway for him to stay on the team past this year. Next question comes from Saman, who says this. Who do you think will be the MVP this upcoming season? I think either Patrick Mahomes wins it back or Lamar Jackson gets it. Maybe Josh Allen. I think it's going to be a 3-horse race between those 3 guys. I don't see Joe Burrow getting MVP this year. It could happen, but I would put him outside the top 3 for me. The reason I think Patrick Mahomes is obvious. He's Patrick Mahomes. You shouldn't have to explain why you think he's an MVP candidate. And honestly, the same goes for Lamar Jackson. But since a lot of Browns fans watch this, I know y'all going to want an explanation on why I'm putting a Raven up here, right? And then when it comes to Josh Allen, I mean, he's due. He's due. He's been playing. He played at almost an MVP level last year, had some ups and downs. But in the playoffs against the Chiefs, he really showed that material. And I think he's going to have a monster season this upcoming year. I would probably say he's the favorite to win MVP to me is Josh Allen, because one, you have to think about this from a narrative perspective, right? That's how the MVP is given out. It's based on what you do on the field plus narrative. If you look at Patrick Mahomes, if you look at Lamar Jackson, hell, even if you look at Joe Burrow, who do they want to give the MVP to, right? That matters when it comes to this conversation, because if they want to give you the MVP, then all you have to do is reach expectations to get it. If they don't really want to give you the MVP, you have to do something spectacular to take it from somebody. They want to give Josh Allen that MVP. The narrative's already forming. People are already making their arguments for it. They want to give Josh Allen the MVP. Josh Allen is good enough to not only reach expectations, but exceed expectations. So I think he's going to be the favorite. Lamar Jackson, I think he can come from outside, because not a lot of people are thinking about the Ravens as an elite team, but I think they're going to be a really good regular season team at least. And I think Lamar is going to put up great numbers, because you look at that offense, it's just the Lamar show. He's playing rugby out there. So I think he's going to put up some spectacular numbers and lead that team to a lot of wins where it's going to be indisputable, right? That's going to be the argument. Lamar is the better player on the worst team. Josh Allen has a better team around him, but he's putting up these ungodly stats. It's going to be an argument between those two, but I think it's going to be somebody, probably Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Patrick Mahomes, that are going to win the MVP this year. Next question comes from Dana, who says this. Who would be your top choice for a breakout player this year for the Cleveland Browns? My top choice. I'm going to say people are going to be talking about JOK a lot more. And I've said this before. I don't know if he gets better, because he was really good last year. If he does get better, watch out. But also, I think this is something more to do with him being around the football more, right? Last year, he was asked to be a will linebacker. When he was around the football, he was pretty good. Now he's going to be asked to move around a little bit. Now he's going to be asked to do a little bit more. He's going to be around the football more, which means he's going to be an opportunity to make more impact plays, which means you're going to notice JOK a lot more than you did last year. And it was hard not to notice him last year. He's like the fastest player on the football field. So you get that guy around the football more often, then, hey, he's going to make plays. He's going to put this team in position for a lot. I think JOK is going to be the player that we're going to talk about at the end of the year as really having his real breakout, right? He's going to go from promising rookie to good player to one of the best linebackers in football. And I think he has the potential to reach something that transcends just the best linebacker. I think he's going to be his own thing, right? Where instead of we're talking about JOK as one of the best linebackers, we're like, man, a player like JOK, it does wonders for the Browns defense. And if you have a guy like Miles and you have a guy like JOK, you're going to have a great defense for the next 10 years as long as you keep those two together. But that's what I think the breakout player are going to be for the Cleveland Browns. All right. Teddy, with this question, do you think the defense will be top 7 in the league? I would fully expect that the Cleveland Browns defense is one of the better defenses in football. I would fully expect that. We have listed the names. They're great players. This team has good depth on the defensive side of the ball for the most part. Defensive line depth withstanding, but they have great depth in that secondary. They are deep there. They're well coached. I know a lot of people hate on Joe Woods, but Joe Woods has provided, a really good defense last year. And at the tail end of 2020, the defense was much stronger. So I think that this defense is in prime position to be one of the best defenses in the NFL. And I've said this for quite a while here, right? Regardless of if if Deshaun Watson's in, if Deshaun Watson's out, the strength of this team, no matter who was at quarterback for 2022, was always going to be the defense. The best player on this team, no matter who the Browns got on offense, was always going to be Myles Garrett. This is a defensive football team at this point, right? That is where the strength of this roster lies. And that's crazy to say because 2 years ago, we weren't a defensive football team. But the Cleveland Browns now are a defensive football team. Their best player is a defensive player. You can even say their best two players are defensive players, right? Depending on where you feel on how highly in Denzel Ward's position group would you rank him versus Nick Chubb. So when you have that kind of strength on the defensive side of the ball, your defense needs to show up and obviously needs to at least be top 10, right? I mean, top 10 is not even that good for a defense that has as much talent as the Cleveland Browns. They need to be more than top 10. Top 7 is about right. So when you have that, when you have your best player reaching into the best years of his career on the defensive side of football, and he's a generational talent, that's the strength of your team, whether Watson played or not. And I'm not downplaying the impact that Watson would have on the offense. He would make the offense great, but that's how good I expect this defense to be. All right? I don't expect the offense to be top 5, no matter who's at quarterback for how long. I don't expect this offense to get to top 5. But this defense, I damn well expect top 7. If not top 5, because they have the potential to be greater than that. They have the potential to be the greatest defense in the NFL if they live up to it. But that's up to them if they want to live up to that potential. But yeah, it's high expectations for them. But I mean, look at the players, look at the payroll for that defense. The expectations damn well should be high because those are Pro Bowl players. Those are all pro players. Those are some of the best players in their position group on the defensive side of the ball. The expectations are rightfully high. It's not like the offense last year where we had a bunch of expectations for a bunch of guys who ain't been all pro. When I'm talking about skill players here, not the offensive line, who ain't ever been all pro in their life or who were all pro maybe 4 years ago. We had the highest expectations in the world for that. The only all-pro player we had that was recent was Nick Chubb on the skill position side of things, right? Now we're looking at it from a different perspective where we got active all-pro players that we drafted ourselves. We know they for real. They're not free agents we thinking just going to make a transition. We know they for real. They've been for real for the Browns. So, yeah, I don't have the same worry about the defense that I had about the offensive side of the ball last year. Freddie Kitchens with this question says, if Deshaun is suspended for 4 to 8 games and can still participate in training camp, which he will, suspensions during the regular season are important to note that they do not preclude you from playing in the preseason ever. Remember, Josh Gordon in 2016, I believe, played the entire preseason despite being banned for a year. So preseason games do not count in suspensions, nor do they count when it comes to training camp. If the suspension is, and I'll get back to the question, but if this is suspension is for the regular season, right? So if Deshaun Watson is suspended for 12 games, if he's suspended for 16 games, if he's suspended for 4 to 8 games, if he's suspended and they put a game amount on it, then his suspensions won't start to the regular season. He'll be able to play in the preseason. If he's indefinitely suspended, he will not be able to be with the team in training camp. If he is suspended for a calendar year, he will not be able to be with the team during training camp. So those are the two distinctions. If it's games, it doesn't start to the regular season. He could do whatever he wants in training camp and be with the team until the regular season starts. But before that, he would have to be indefinitely suspended. They want him to stop coming to camp. We'll see what happens on that front. All right, so let's say he gets 48 game suspension. Which QB gets first team reps in camp, and what does his QB snap count look like in the preseason game? If the suspension is only 48 games, nothing changes. Nothing changes. I know people might think that's crazy, but nothing changes. Just because you're preparing for Deshaun Watson to take you through the meat of the season. Point blank, period, right? Like that's what you would be preparing for. Getting Jacoby Brissett ready, yeah, that's important. He'll have the whole week one prep to get ready. But as far as the training camp goes, no, you need Deshaun Watson to get all those first team snaps, even if he's suspended for 12 games. You want him to get all those first team snaps. The job that Jacoby Brissett is being asked to do is to be able to take those second team reps and be able to play with the first team if need be. That's what he's asked to do. That's what he's professionally paid to do. That's the job of a backup in the NFL. You do not change the snap count if you think that Deshaun Watson is going to be in there for any period of time during this year. Now, again, if the suspension is indefinite, if the suspension is a calendar year, then Deshaun's not going to be able to be in training camp anyway, so it would be Jacoby Brissett. The concern about who would take the most snaps, I don't think is a real concern, just because if Deshaun's going to play any part this year, he needs to learn the offense. He will play in training camp. He will take all the snaps he needs to. He will do that. It does not matter if Jacoby Brissett takes those first team snaps or not, because he'll have the first week of practice to get used to the team. That's how they'll look at it. If Deshaun is suspended for the whole year, calendar year, okay, then Jacoby's going to be in there by default, because Deshaun won't be able to practice. So there is that. Right now, if they say 16 games, I don't know. If he plays one game in the regular season, I don't know at that point, right? That's unprecedented territory. But we'll see. All right, next question comes from Nick, who says this. Why do media members actually believe Baker will suit up for the Cleveland Browns? It shocked me that the narrative has existed this long and not been shut down immediately. Because the reality of a situation does not do anything to stop a fake narrative from coming through. That just is the truth of it, right? People have been telling you for a while that Baker Mayfield is never suiting up for the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield has told you this for a while, that he is never suiting up for the Cleveland Browns. Remember, Baker Mayfield opted to take himself out of the last game of the regular season in the press conference of the game that he just kind of blew in week 16, right? So he's not playing. I told you guys, and so many people were upset at me, that the day that he decided that he was not going to play that last game of the season, and other players who were injured did, like Myles Garrett, the leader of this team, that was the end of Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. It was the end of Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. One way or the other, they had to move on. It was over. It's still over, right? He's not coming back. He's not going to play. There's no reality in which Baker Mayfield is suiting up for the Cleveland Browns for the most part. Now, something spectacular could happen and change all of this, but anything realistic, no, there's no realistic possibility that Baker Mayfield ends up playing for the Cleveland Browns, because he doesn't want to do it and the Cleveland Browns don't want him to do it. There's no mutual interest in Baker Mayfield playing another down for the Cleveland Browns. And that's been patently obvious. He wrote a goodbye letter. He has no interest in playing for the Cleveland Browns again. He does not want to play for you in Cleveland in general, not because he has anything against the fans or anything like that, but he just doesn't want to play for the Browns no more. And the Browns have made it patently obvious on the same front, right? As much as Baker has had the letter in the podcast to make it clear he doesn't want to play for Cleveland anymore, Cleveland has signed every quarterback in the world to make it clear that they don't want to play Baker anymore. None of them want anything to do with each other. Everybody knows that. Just people need something to talk about, so they keep bringing this up. And let's be honest, right? There is a real big crop of Oklahoma fans out there that will jump to any team that Baker Mayfield goes for, or support any member of the media that says what they want to hear about Baker Mayfield, which is he could suit up again for the Cleveland Browns and show them, right? They have these fantasies about what they want Baker to achieve, and they will go to any media member that feeds them that lie. But it's cotton candy. It's fake. It's not real. It's bull. And that's why it stays out there, right? Because there's a large enough group of Baker Mayfield / Oklahoma fans that want to believe this, that they will support anybody and give anybody the clicks that says otherwise, even though the people who are pushing that out there know it's bull, know that they're lying basically to these people. And that's why I'm not about to sit here and act like something like that could happen, because it would be a lie I would be saying to get those Baker fans clicks, right? I'm not down to get anybody's clicks for any in dishonest reason. I cover the Browns. I talk my mind about the Browns. I say what I believe to be true about the Cleveland Browns, and I'm not going to say lies to cultivate an audience. So other people, they don't have that issue. They will lie to you to cultivate an audience. Be careful whenever you're listening to somebody and they're saying everything that you want to hear. Even me, if I'm saying everything that you want to hear, stop, think about it for a minute and make sure that I'm making sense, because some people will use that and use that confirmation bias to basically lie to you and make you believe some kind of kooky reality where that's possible. It's not. But that's just my little rant on that situation. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.